like the single payer healthcare system that the country is considering. Saying everyone pays the government for health insurance. It's the way Canada and England operate, under one system. That's it. And you hear bad things about that system. The motivation is down for the doctors. There's no, you're on a waiting list for everything that you're doing. So being on that waiting list, it's not necessarily good for everybody. It's not good for everybody, not even the doctors. They stay busy, but they have no incentive to work harder or to gain more education because they're paid to do the job they do. That's the downside of communism, is you lose your passion for work.
Hey there, this is our podcast, Do You Have a Minute?, in which my dad and I dive into deep discussions about both the most profound and most mundane questions of life. While we know we don't have all the answers, probably none of them actually, we are opening our minds to new perspectives, and most importantly, we are having a good time in conversation. Join us as we explore the unknown together.
Okay, we're going to start talking about families and how they operate together and the problems with that. What are those problems?
Financial problems.
Families have financial problems. They also have decision problems, as I've seen exhibited, and what we expected one more member of the family here that forgot. So memory problems, commitment problems,
Commitment issues.
the ability to have your calendar direct your life, or
how tired you are at any given moment. I've been trying to move him out of his storage unit for 4 or 5 weeks now. Every Sunday he asks if I can, and I always say yes, and then he cancels.
And then he can't do it
Yeah.
that Sunday.
It happens. It's family.
So you could call that, what do you call that? Dependability?
Yeah.
Punctuality.
All right. So, following on from the the conversation we had about mooching, I feel like there was a question there that we weren't able to answer. We weren't able to answer, how do you train out a mooching philosophy?
Train out a mooching philosophy. That's assuming the mooching is bad, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to agree to that? I mean, we had a discussion about that, and
Well, in what case would mooching be good?
So what's the opposite of mooching? That's the question I have here. Why is there mooching, and what is its opposite? So let's start with that question, to clearly identify what we're talking about.
Why is there mooching? Because someone thinks that they can't fend for themselves?
It's maybe an accountability issue. They don't feel like they can, fear or accountability. They're afraid to go through it themselves, and so they just try to find the quickest solution.
Quickest solution meaning they want the easy button? Is that a quickest solution? They want an easy button, and it's always easy just to go and take something instead of work for it.
That's why people get into debt in the first place. This is going to take me months to figure out.
It's a lot easier. So we talked about, part of the last conversation, we talked about the possibility of earning money, that there are online things you can do to earn money.
The only examples you could come up with were telephone scams.
Right. You could be a telephone scammer, and you can make money doing that.
This is the only thing you can think of that someone can do online.
And there are others. Through the Dave Ramsey system, they put that. Rachel Cruz, she does that. There's a list of businesses that you can accomplish to get extra income in your household. So they've done a compilation. I didn't look at it, but there's got to be things you can look at. Maybe things you can do for local people. Like we've had experience with counting cars on corners, right?
Yeah.
Is that an income
Traffic
earning
studies.
thing?
Yeah. It's not lucrative, but it does earn a little bit of money.
And do you take your time during the day? It has to be done during the day. That's not something
Very
you can do
specific
at 10
times
at night.
in the morning during high
Rush
peak
hours.
traffic
Okay.
times.
So if someone needs something, they've got specific times it needs to happen.
Yeah.
I recently talked to someone who does designated driver services from bars at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You can do that at 2 a.m. if you found the right places to frequent.
How do you advertise yourself for that, though? Do you talk to the bar manager and
I don't know.
put out cards?
I bet.
I don't know how they set it up. This was a guy in that says he's done that for a number of years, and he's known as the one to call.
Yeah, there's a bulletin board outside of a couple places I've been to. Not outside of, but in there.
So if you're
entryway.
available, and you could probably charge whatever you want for that service.
Yeah.
And if you had two of you could take their car back home too. I think that's what he talked about. He said, we generally try to bring their car with them to get it home so they don't have to go back again.
Yeah.
But those are entrepreneurial stuff. We talked about that. So it's easier. You mooch because it's an easier route to get what you want right now. Instant gratification. Mooching is fine. What's the opposite of mooching then?
Total independence, self-sufficiency.
And full responsibility, personal self-sufficiency. Is that operating as a silo? I know we talked about that kind of an idea. If you operate fully independent, you're just a silo working in your own realm, and you don't talk to anyone else out there. There's no community. You're you.
I don't really understand the silo reference.
You just have to go along with it.
It holds grain.
Good.
And
silo holds
there's a
grain.
group of silos holding maybe different types of material. They are working together to hold it, but it's a storage facility. It's not a...
Okay, as a business entity, you're missing the business entity connection to that analogy. So the analogy is that one silo holds the grain it holds. It holds wheat, and the corn is over there, and the maize is over there. So each silo has its own responsibility. You can't put wheat in the corn silo. Wheat's wheat, corn's corn. The connection between those is the elevator system that allows you to move grain from one silo to the next. If you want to change that corn silo to a wheat silo, you can do that. You have to empty out the corn and then clean it and then put the wheat in. So the silos mean they have one responsibility, one thing. They don't really care what the next silo is doing, and they're not at all. So a silo in business is a group that operates without talking to the other parts of the business. The marketing department is the marketing department.
That's the definition on Google. It's the third definition, is a system, department, etc., that operates in isolation from others.
Right.
So it's just a definition that we didn't know
So the
yet.
marketing system, or the accounting, the accountants, they're just accountants. They don't care what marketing does or what sales does. They just want to account that this is what happened. If you have a silo business like that, then with no communication back and forth, it's hard to accomplish things.
Mm-hmm.
So that idea of the family, if a family operates in silos, that means that this one, we talk extended family or siblings that are outside of the home, no longer in tier 1, but tier 2 extended family people.
Yeah, everyone's operating in their own households and they're not connected at all.
Right. You never talk to the sibling. You talk to the sibling at reunions, but then it's just silly conversations. How'd you like that hurricane last night? So you're talking about stuff that happens in the world, rather than stuff that's important to the silo and helping that silo work. So the concept of, mooching, how does that relate to mooching? How would a silo mooch? If you mooch from another silo, you don't really care what that silo is doing. So you have to care about the silo, and then you're not mooching. The definition, what was the first definition of mooching? Was taking something without paying for it. So it was accessing something without paying or returning anything. And that's operating as a silo. You can mooch as a silo. Can you mooch as a community? I don't know that you can. I think you, as a community, you care about the other person that you're stealing from. You can steal from somebody, but if you know something about them, you're less likely to steal.
Okay, so maybe it's possible, but it's difficult to come up with an example for a community to mooch. So are you saying then that operating as a silo is not ideal?
It's a much slower way to get to the goal. Sure, all the silos are working. They're doing their jobs for the farm, as it were.
Yeah.
But they're not looking across the board, across the row of silos to see how everything can be improved all at once.
That's the role of the CEO or the farmer in that case, is to make sure that there's enough wheat in the silo for wheat to get the project done, the whole year met. Or if you're a grain mixer and you need millet for it, or you need molasses. Make sure if you run out of molasses, then you introduced a bottleneck that can't be solved, and you have a shortage of one thing, then it stops the whole system. Nothing happens. That silo isn't working. Or if a silo breaks down, you can't get the corn out of that silo. Or it got wet, the roof didn't work, and it ruined the whole silo of corn. You're hurting. You can't do anything. So you have to protect the whole system. Everything you have to be aware of it all. So yeah, I think it'd be better if you didn't work as silos. And that's the whole discussion of community. Are you better in a community or better on your own?
Is that subjective? You have to consider whether somebody feels like they want to be part of a community or wants to be a hermit. Like individually, if you pull back and you look at everything objectively, people that are a part of a community are doing better financially and mental health. They're doing better emotionally if they're part of a community. And the people that aren't part of the community are probably doing that intentionally, and they think they're doing better. But, they're maybe not happy, maybe not doing well. I don't know.
It's draft horses. If you have one draft horse, it can pull a certain amount of pounds. You would think you add another one in there and it doubles it. But no, it quadruples it. Because now the community is working together for that same goal, and they've got somebody to keep up with. They're pushing each other. That would be more beneficial to work together, because it does improve efficiency when everybody has the same goal and they're working together, not against each other. It's more of a team effort at that point. You feel your own self-confidence goes up when you've got people behind you or next to you pushing as well.
Exponential gains.
That's good. That's a whole other topic. That exponential gains, that's geometric. It works geometrically and goes exponential. Even though you're just adding one horse, that one horse has much more than one horse in the power, the effective use. What else did you mention? You mentioned working alone. That's the Genesis, how the whole description of the world in Genesis 1, and the first real good command. And I just went through the Hillsdale course on Genesis, so it's what he points out. The first big insight is that it's not good for man to be alone. So identifying that we were built supposedly in this system, in this world, not to be alone. So you're built to work together in a team, yoked to someone else, working with someone else. A husband and wife, that's how that started out. But then if it's good that a husband and wife work together, is it good that a brother and sister work together with their own husband and wife and continue building together as opposed to apart? So the big picture with that is, should we be under communism? Anism, a thought of communal work as opposed to silo work.
I always thought that communism was looked down on. People don't like that idea. But then, isn't that how the world is going to operate after Jesus comes again?
When we talk about the millennium, and if you have one head, which is Jesus Christ, on the whole earth, and everyone knows he's the king, that's a communistic society. And I'll share a lie.
Everyone is expected to give, and
Zion, there's no poor among them. You're sharing all of your assets.
So everyone is okay with, this is a conflicting thought that I've been having my whole life.
Okay.
No one's okay with communism if it's a government dictating that it is, but everyone's okay with it if it's Jesus Christ.
If it's a religious thing. As a religious statement, it's good.
Yeah.
As a secular statement, it's not good. But we're not talking about as a family operating, or operating as opposed to siloistically, you're working communistically. And what's the word for siloistically? It's not a word. Independently. Rather than independently running your own family and your own retirement plan, your own money. This is my money. I'm going to use it. This is my job. I'm going to just do my job and not ask anyone else any information. No one else can help me. I don't want anyone else to help me. My business is my business. Mind your own business. That was the thing. We brought that up. As to, should we use that placard, mind your own business, leave me alone, and I'm going to leave you alone? Or should we mind each other's business?
It starts talking about privacy too. Like, people want to keep their successes private in a way so that other people don't come to them and be like, I mean, if you win the lottery, you don't tell anyone. You don't want anyone to know because then everyone's going to be coming to you asking for a loan.
And that would be mooching, right?
Yeah.
It generates mooching. If you become successful, it's like the crabs trying to get out of the barrel. You don't let the other crabs get out. They'll pull them back in.
So is communism good or bad?
As an idea, it's good. I mean, if everybody works together, but it just makes, if everybody's needs are met, it makes you more of what you are. So the lazy people become more lazy because all their needs are met. They don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
The people that are ambitious, hardworking, they end up, they don't have to worry about their wife and kids at home, so they end up working hard just because it's their passion. The passionate people become more passionate. The lazy people become more lazy. The moderates.
I don't think the passionate become more passionate. The passionate become more lazy in a communism. The history of the world, we've tried it 7 or 8 or 10 times. Russia specifically, and say we're going to provide everything for everybody, and that generated bread lines, and no one then began to work. No one started to work. And even now with the welfare system that we have, once you get on welfare, or what do they call that? Temporary welfare? What is that? When you lose your job.
Oh, unemployment.
Unemployment. Once you get on unemployment, you relax. You're done. You're getting 2/3 of your wage, and that's enough to survive on. And so you relax for the 26 weeks or 99 weeks or whatever it lasted. You're off work. I'm just going to relax. And like disability, you mentioned disability. If you can get on disability, if you can say my back issue is such that I should qualify for disability, and you do qualify, you get your $2,000 a month, and you say I can live simply on this, and you do. You lose your incentive to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. I mean, you can decline the disability, but that's too altruistic for anyone actually to do. If you qualify for disability, you take it, but you should use that to do something else. So what causes that degeneration? What causes that attitude of relaxing if you have your needs met? We don't know. I don't know.
Distractions?
Comfort.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable with $2,000 a month, you'll do almost anything to keep that $2,000 a month for doing nothing.
Yeah.
You refile every couple of months.
It's the subsistence
something
of
like
your
that.
silo. So if my silo is working, why would I care about anything else?
Right.
So let's say you're making $20,000 a month and you have sufficient for your silo. What do normal people do in that case? Let's use Donald Trump as an example, because in the public view, does he have to run for president? And did he like his salary as president?
Didn't take it.
He didn't take it. He gave it back. I guess they did something else with it.
Yeah,
But
he doesn't have to.
his silo is operating just fine. He said, I don't need to do this. And that's what he said a number of times in this thing. He says, I'm doing this for you. And they're after me, but they're after you, and I'm just in the way, and I want to stay in the way. I'm going to do that. So that's his altruistic, passionate reason for being there. Is he doesn't need the money. He's not going for power. He doesn't even need the power. Doesn't need the recognition. Doesn't need the acclaim. He's already got everything he wants in the world, but he wants to do something to benefit. If you're on welfare or disability and you still want to benefit society, how do you do that from that position? You can't run for president, but what can you do?
Volunteer work?
You could volunteer. You could run the homeless shelter or do the every Thursday thing, feeding, whatever. Work every day in a food pantry. Or you could open your own food pantry. You could do something for the homeless.
You could.
Generosity looks different to everybody. Donald Trump's generosity is running the country so that he's in the way, as you said.
Yeah.
And normal people can't do that. That's not within their wheelhouse.
They can run for city council, though.
Yeah, and that's generous if you're leaving something for that too.
They could work in.
It's meaningful work, less than what you could be doing.
They could learn. They could go to some new educational system and learn plumbing or electrical work or haircutting. They could do a number of things.
Yeah, any sort of servile work, not practical work, like services that people need. You can learn how to do those, and you can provide them for free in return for free to the community that can't pay for it in return for the benefits that you're receiving for free. You know, I know a guy that works for the city teaching piano classes to kids, and they're very, very affordable piano classes. He's not getting paid as much as a piano teacher that you pay $120 a month to. I'm sure he's not getting paid that much. But he's in a electric wheelchair. There's not much he can do. But he teaches piano classes through the city.
He's using it as much as he can.
Yeah.
He wants to use it. And it's a personal desire thing, I think, that keeps people's passion going. You can let your passion die, or you can build your passion. And if you don't have anywhere to build it, you're not going to. So to avoid, we were talking about education. It's not necessarily education. You can teach people, but just the fact that you have an education doesn't mean you're going to do anything with it. The action has to be there. You have to be able to do something and have an avenue to do it in. So that's, if you're a silo and they say, so let's say a family operates that way and says, now you're 18, you're 19, you're going to be out of the house, you just do your own thing. And I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And don't talk to your sisters, your brothers anymore. Just good luck with your life. Move to Missouri if you want to, but don't talk to us anymore. With that expectation, there's a disconnect. And then if there's problems there where you are, you don't have anyone to talk to about, you're just solving it with the local charities or your local community. But you don't have this family connection. We did talk about families that operated together, like Peaky Blinders, right? They operated together. Did they break apart at some point?
Few of them from time to time. They have their own ideas and ambitions, and never worked. Something went wrong.
Yeah.
Because they weren't working together.
Came back.
They always had to.
What other families do we have examples of?
The Rothschilds.
Rothschilds, who run the world, and they've been invisible for 100 years now, but apparently they still run the world. Allegedly, yeah. Whether they're actually running the Trilateral Commission and the whatever those things are, maybe the family still is. You have other famous families like the Vanderbilts, who lost all their money, that worked together for a while. Who else do you have?
The Trumps.
The Trump family. And clearly Eric and Don are running the business for Donald Trump. They've come in and they're operating things, and the other kids are going to do it. And Laura's doing her thing. And, you've got members of the family that are all completely involved with each other, and no one's off on their own venture.
Mm-hmm. What about the Kardashians? Are they all in business with each other?
Yeah. And are they successful?
You got the Kardashian brand, and then everybody does their own things. They all have their own line of whatever, clothing or makeup or what have you. Mm-hmm. And they do well individually, but I think it also counts toward as a whole.
Because the brand is there. Everyone knows, you say Kardashian, everyone knows it. I have no idea what Kardashians do. I've seen the bit on TV. They say something, but I wouldn't recognize any of them if I ever saw them in a picture.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Well, you're running in the wrong circles.
Right. I'm running in the circles that doesn't matter, but I do know the brand is out there. So just the fact they've got the brand out there, it seems like nothing the Kardashians present would be of use to me.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's why it doesn't match. If they came out with some financial planning software or a book, I might be interested in the book describing how they organize their business. That would be a good thing. And maybe they'll write one of those someday, and it'll be part of my book case.
So how do you motivate the community to work together? It's a problem of motivation.
Motivation or action?
The family.
Yeah, motivation being different from education.
If some members of the family are doing well and they want to continue operating on their own, in their own silo, they don't have any motivation to work with everybody else because their needs are met.
Well, maybe
they're not lazy, they're just not motivated to bring everybody
that if
up.
they start working with everybody else, then everybody else is going to start being moochers.
I'm worried about
their success. But then everybody else, maybe they're they don't want to be moochers. They're like, no, I'm gonna figure this out myself. I can do it.
And are they at a disadvantage because they think they can do it themselves? You go back to that thing that it's not good for man to be alone. It's not good to operate as a silo. If we believe that, if we can prove it, that it's not good to be a silo, then why do we always work as silos? We work as silos for the reason that you said, because you're afraid someone's going to mooch or steal it. If you do win the lottery, let's say we have a family member that loves to play the lottery and plays every week and has the numbers, and we know that those numbers are going to win at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Does the family support that lottery player? Do we all have to play the lottery? We say our lottery player is
We all pitch in.
this. And you know, now let's get 5 tickets each week instead of just 1.
Yeah, that
Let's pitch in and
quintuples our chances.
we're playing that number. Your numbers are going to work. We have all the faith and confidence, and so that supports him. Does it benefit his motivation to do a better job?
The lack of control in that scenario. People who are comfortable and are doing well, and they can control their own lives. They can't control the lives of others. They can't control the lottery winnings. They can't. There's no end date. They can set their own goals and work for those. But if you start supporting other people's goals, they really don't. You don't know what is going to happen. You don't know if they're just going to stop playing the lottery. You don't know if those numbers are never going to hit.
The uncertainty of it.
Uncertainty.
In the lotteries there. Well, let's say we had a construction company, which we do. We have a construction company, right? And let's say it's working and it's gone through a couple of years of struggle and challenge, but there's good prospect for the future. If the construction company owner operates as a silo and just does that by himself, there's certain success that's available, but all the challenges are there. Would it be better? And how do you motivate the family to be involved in that appropriately, benefiting the work of one of the silos, one of the aspects of the brand?
It makes me think of the whatever story, the chicken that made the bread and everybody didn't want to help.
The red
Little
hen,
red
yeah.
hen. Yeah.
Okay.
It's once they saw the loaf of bread, that's when they wanted to join. It's the evidence of success
When they
that
got an
people are
immediate
drawn to.
gratification. So that's the pleasure center. I can eat the bread
Yeah.
now. There's bread.
Most people need evidence that there is bread before not just the prospect of bread. If you have an ingredient of bread and you say, hey, we can all work together and get the rest of the ingredients.
The little red hen's mindset in that story was different than anyone else. Can we describe what that mindset was?
She was inviting everybody to help her.
She wanted to be communal. She wanted to have the community join her and help her. She said it's going to be good for all of us. Would it have been good for them to help? Is
Yeah.
it good to help?
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone else was thinking, that sounds like work. And it was like the ant and the grasshopper. The grasshopper says, why are you working so hard? And the sun's out, it's a fun day, there's food to eat, plenty of food. Why are you working? And then the grasshopper ends up without food because they had no long-term vision. The red hen had a long-term vision. She said, I know that this bearing this wheat and watering it and watching it grow is going to give us some bread. And I want to work for the long term. No one else could see that in the story. Everyone else in the story was just living for today, being grasshoppers. She was being an ant. So how do we get our view off of the grasshopper to the ant?
You tell stories like the little red hen and the ant and the grasshopper.
And you identify what they mean, right?
Yeah.
It has to have a meaning. It has to have a moral. So that's what they call morals, right?
Yeah. Fables and books of virtue. You know, you read those.
Moral stories, all of this
Uplift.
for the biggest value. And that's education, though. And we talked about educated derelicts. So these people can know the little red hen story, but if you don't internalize it and use it, it's just a fun fable story. You thought of it for a reason, though. Was that the reason you were thinking of it?
It's most people don't want to work together because they don't have the vision altogether. So me running a construction business, I can see where it can go. And if I do these steps, there's a reasonable process that I can go through, and I can see those steps in front of me. If everybody else is in an elevator in what they're doing, the steps are out of sight, and it's a little bit easier work because somebody else is laid the foundation for that elevator to work correctly. They're on an elevator, and I chose the steps because
The staircase? You chose
Yeah.
the staircase because...
staircase, long time vision, you don't atrophy when you're doing the work. So if you're in a company that you're working for forever and it's just taking you floor by floor, might be quicker to get to a comfortable place. But if you take the steps, the stairs, it's a bad analogy for sure, but just taking the steps, you don't atrophy, you don't get lazy because you're always there. You're always working towards something rather standing there
Yeah, your goal
being
is
taken for a ride.
maintaining your fitness,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's your physical fitness or your business
Yeah.
fitness, your...
You continue to grow as you travel.
Yeah, growth.
You learn the lessons, you learn how to do the steps to get to the top rather than just going for the ride up to the top.
Let's say
The goal is
that
the same.
that analogy of the stairs, taking the stairs to the 9th floor instead of the elevator. If you do that, it's your business. You kind of introduced it as that's your business, that's your work. But if it's just family at a vacation place and they're living on the 9th floor, you can, as you're going up, you can get in the elevator and you're there in 30 seconds up the thing, or you can take 2 minutes walking up the staircase. That 2 minutes of discussion, is it valuable? Is it worth
Or
taking
even
the time?
the experiences you have. What if it's a good vacation with a scenic stair route?
Yeah,
You're not in a box.
usually hotel stairs are the darkest.
We're talking about a nice
Stinkiest.
resort. here,
Okay, so
It's-
nice
it's
resorts,
a
though.
nice place.
I mean,
But in nice resorts,
only
the hotel, the
five
elevators
different
have
staircases.
windows everywhere, and you can see everything. They make the elevators as
Yeah.
appealing as they can.
4 of those staircases are the same box dark staircases. One of the staircases is a wide open and it's more interesting. 2 of
Right
them
in
are
the
more
center.
interesting.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can do something different with staircases,
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily the staircase. It's the people that you're walking it with. It's the trail, the people you're walking.
yeah.
Peaceful Warrior, where he was going up to, all excited about getting to the top of the mountain to see the thing that the guy was telling him to come up and see. And he got to the top. You remember what he did? He said, well, what's up here? This rock. Rock. And he was all upset. He said, you were all excited coming up the mountain. You were going to show me something amazing. This is a rock. It's amazing. You're on the top of the mountain. This, now, what's the difference? Why were you excited? So that was the teaching of the Peaceful Warrior thing. You've got to be energetic and interested in the process you're on, as opposed to just take the elevator. You're just going to get to the 9th floor. There's nothing in that. You get nothing out of it. But if you're enjoying the journey and learning on the way, you can take more time and get there. When I'm walking a staircase by myself, do you know what I do?
You sing. Do you sing as loud as you can in this staircase?
Do you skip a
see
step?
The
Do you go 2
acoustical.
steps at a time?
You skip steps.
I never have. Never sung. Like singing in the shower. I don't sing in the shower.
Do you do the Shirley Temple up and down dance on the
Oh,
steps?
yes, look at this. What do I do?
You lay out all of your books. You read.
I always have a book when I'm walking on a staircase. So I read as I'm walking up or down. So it gives me an extra minute. I can get an extra 2 pages in. And that extra 2 pages makes a difference. And it's something to think about. And then you come up with an idea that you'll think about for weeks. What Malthus said, which was really crazy. And you mentioned it. Malthus was the guy's name. Thomas Robert Malthus in 1798 wrote about geometric and arithmetic ratios and things that grow geometrically, exponentially. And my thought for the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks since I've read this is that I don't think there are any arithmetic processes. Like you add one horse that's going to multiply. There's synergies involved in everything. Even if you're adding one at a time, just one at a time, you're going to get synergies that make it geometric. At some point, everything goes exponential. That's my statement.
Yeah.
He used this in the late 1700s to say that populations grow geometrically. You get 4 or 5 kids in a family, and then they expand geometrically. But our support systems, our systems of sustenance, grow arithmetically, and so we're going to overpopulate the world. That's the basis of that thought and that theory. that there's not an abundance of available resources in the world to handle all the geometric growth that's going to happen in the people. So that's the initial population control idea, Malthusian economics. But I think it's even demonstrated as wrong now. One simple change in the way that wheat is grown solved the world's food population. Now you've got shorter stalks, and it's a bad wheat. No one should eat it. It's a bad gluten. There's enough for everyone to eat, and we've just got to make the next change to get that gluten out of the wheat product the way that's and that's going to happen too. I think everything's exponential. That you just can't do it. Those things are interesting though, and if you use that in every business, you can always take those examples like the little red hen, or the grasshopper, or the tortoise and the hare, or Malthusian economics, and you can understand it and relate it to your construction company, or to your financial planning practice, or to your music teaching. You need to apply all that, and applying it is I think the benefit of it.
Yeah. So now how do you get people to want to apply it?
How do you promote the motivation?
Yeah. I mean, you can put up motivational billboards everywhere and hope that people care enough to read them or to take it to heart. You can't make people take things to heart because maybe they're comfortable enough. They think, well, I'm okay with how things are. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with being on welfare. I'm okay. I'm comfortable.
It's an individual decision.
Yeah.
It's can you make a difference idea.
But nobody's brave enough to tell people that they shouldn't continue living on welfare. They shouldn't be comfortable. Like, I bet their friends are like, yeah, you're so lucky that you have your disability check. I wish I could live like you. I wish I didn't have to work.
Or you could just love your work and know that you're not working. The Make a Difference story of the starships, the starfish. The guy throwing the starfish in. There's no way you can make a difference. And he throws one and says, I made a difference for that one. That's really all we can do. Changing the world is changing one at a time. If it goes viral, just this conversation, who knows if we'll ever even publish this one. Don't know that we're going to publish any of it.
Oh, we will.
But if it's published, it has the chance of going viral. It has the chance of benefiting and interesting people. And if we can come to the motivation concept, it doesn't matter how long it takes or which one it helps. If it helps one, it's going to be not arithmetic. We're not looking at doing the arithmetic thing. It's going to be geometric. There's going to be one person that talks to another person, and then that's going to talk to 5, and that's going to affect their business. It will affect something else. So what was it?
Just by talking about it, we're
changing the world, creating a new
geometric.
This is the act of creation that we're doing right here. We're building.
We are gods.
World. Right. Gods of this idea. Who I'm going to misquote him, but Brad Wilcox. You guys probably didn't listen to Jello Conference. Brad Wilcox, you need to listen to it.
Oh yeah.
You don't need to.
You know how much I love that guy.
Yeah. His talk was incredible though. He said, why would you were built to change the world. If you were sent here to change the world, be that. Be who you're supposed to be. Yeah, I can't really bring it up because I can't remember the exact quote. But we are here for more than just us, more than just the silo. If you think that you're just here to be a silo, then you can do that. And most people do that, right? Most people think I'm building my retirement plan. If I've got sufficient for me and my family and me and my wife, and we can live, and if I die, she's got enough to live the rest of her life, but that's the limit of my involvement on this earth. I don't like that view.
Yeah, it's not meant to be that way.
You're responsible for taking care of your household, your family, your wife, to make sure that they're set up just in case something happens. There's no responsibility to take care of anybody outside of that. Further than motivation, you're not motivated to be generous.
Okay.
You can feel a certain responsibility to be.
So the corn silo is responsible for the corn inside the silo.
And that's as far as they may go. That's all they're willing to do. They don't feel responsible for anything outside of that.
Right.
And that's where
So taking the analogy, the grain silo certainly can't think about the wheat silo next to it. They don't relate.
There's no desire there to do that.
They don't relate, and there's not an avenue. But if you have two people, a marketing department and an advertising department, can they talk to each other? And that's the idea of silos in a corporate environment. They should talk to each other. And if they do, they're going to be better off. They're going to be that synergy. It's going to be, if they yoke each other together, there's more power than they can do by themselves, even more than additive power. It's a geometric power that happens. It's the third mind. It's the mastermind of Napoleon Hill. He talks about if you get groups talking to each other, then something else happens. You get the benefit of the third mind, of the spiritual, of the whatever, the ethereal. That can happen in people. It can't happen with inanimate silos particularly. But what you just described was you're responsible as part of responsibility. Is that the limit of our responsibility? Just us and our family.
I guess more the recent experience I have with this, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is I'm the general contractor. All my subcontractors work independently, and I bring them in on an as needed basis. And I had this idea for the past 2 years or so that I'd like to entertain, but it's having one company that has everybody within it. One construction company that has everybody working for it, not as subcontractors, working within it. Because anytime somebody calls a plumber, they tear up the walls, and then we need something else. And everybody works together in these anyway.
But nobody's talking to each other when you've got subcontractors. Nobody's working with each other.
They come in, they do their part, and they say, okay, everything else is the next guy's problem.
That's what the general is supposed to be aware of, is when do we get the plumbers in? What 3 days do they have to work before we get the framers, the rest of the framing done?
But if everybody was working together, and I'm sure a lot of companies have figured it out, and they do this same thing. Rather than a bunch of different entities, they have it as one single group working together as a team.
They're kind of like a handyman that can do everything, except you've got 20 people doing everything.
No, not necessarily. Just working together, not being separate entities like the silos. And
it's like a factory floor. I mean, if you have
it's an assembly
car
line.
that you're making, you have an assembly line. There's bottlenecks you can identify in that process in operations management. And if you can identify the bottleneck really gives the speed of the whole system. You might be able to do plumbing, may be really quick, but it has to be done in the right realm, the right time.
Yeah.
And if it's done in the wrong time, you have to pull the sheetrock back off and then finish the plumbing, and then sheetrock has to come in and do it again. That becomes a bottleneck, becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have things done in the right order. Or like the electrician, if you try to get too far in the electrical process before you get your mudding done and your sheetrock on, and you've got problems. It takes extra time to go around those outlets.
Yeah, it's much easier when everybody is working together as a group. That's the only reason I see that you need a construction manager, is to protect the property that you are improving. It's another layer of protection to make sure everything gets done at the right time, in the right order, and the quality stays the same.
Good quality and good timing. You can do one thing at a time. Tear the wall down and then go put the wall back up, and then tear it down again for the plumbing, then tear it down again for the heating system. Or you can do it all at once. And it's the timing. You can get the project done in a lot less time, more efficient.
It's avoiding middlemen. That's a problem that I have. I'm the middleman for everything. I'm in between the homeowner and all the subs. If the electrician needs information for equipment that the plumber is installing, then it makes much more sense to just have them communicate together.
Yeah.
I just only had that finally happen to me yesterday. The plumber and electrician already knew each other before I got them both involved in this project, and now they're taking care of it. Their bids are going to come in exactly accurate, and I don't have to do that extra step, which will take more time.
To merge the two.
To get all the information collected and pass it to all the different people that need to know. So if it was operated as a community rather than separate entities, then
And that's
everybody can grow together. I think
I mean,
I
it's a
would
perfect
I would think
example.
for more velocity, at more velocity.
Don't you believe all the larger construction companies have the divisions, electrical and plumbing and sheetrocking and whatever? They've got their divisions inside the company that all communicate with each
Yeah,
other.
they have plumbing estimators and electrical estimators. They have the estimators that delegate the work out to the subcontractors. So they've got
And if the company gets large enough, wouldn't it not want to have subcontractors? Let's just own all the subs, keep it in the company. Is there any company that exists like that?
and that's where I'm finding the problem. I don't think there is. I don't know if I mean there's like the master plumbing, heating and air companies that do 24-hour service, and they do very well, but it's still not the rest of the project. They don't.
These $1 million companies, people that build shopping centers,
Mhm.
do they still have the same subs come in and do the work? Or do they have their own plumbing department?
I think that's where the responsibility to the property owner comes in, because you have a responsibility to make sure that they're getting it for a fair price.
Right.
So if you use the same subcontractors all the time throughout all the years, and they're slowly increasing their rate because they're growing and they don't have as much time to do it, and they need to make it worth it for them. And the newer, smaller companies coming up could potentially be giving you a more competitive price. And so I think everybody still gets multiple bids because of that. They have a responsibility to the owners of the property to give them a quality product at a fair price. So that may be a big hurdle that would have to be taken care of. It would be more efficient to do it all in-house, but I don't know if it would be
If you had
it
a
would be
family
economical.
business, you could do it. You could have one person as a licensed plumber and one person as a licensed electrician, and you turn it into, because everybody's invested in the success of the company, rather like everyone's ownership instead of just employees.
Yeah. And that goes back to the Trump family or the Rothschilds. They all work together for the greater goal.
Success of their family.
So can you do that with strangers?
Do you want to do that with strangers? I don't know. Do you want to be a commune with strangers? I'm thinking that there has to be a company that operates with all the divisions inside the company as opposed to using subs. They are their subs. That they run that.
You think there exists one already?
Yeah, I think they exist that way. They work that way. You can't be at the behest of some plumbing companies out there. Say they've got 5 subcontractors in the area. If you're a small company like we are, you don't have to. You can't do that. You can't hire your own division. But if you get to Jacobson or HK Contractors, maybe, someone that builds multi-million-dollar projects, you're going to own the plumbing company that does it for you. And you're going to be able to tell them exactly when to come in and do that. And they're in the community. So we're going to schedule them all together in our meeting because they're our employees. They don't go out and get other bids. They're captive for our jobs. And consequently, their price is a lot less than you get anywhere else because they're not battling for work. They're on these jobs. I don't think you want to be part of the whole community. You don't want a city to work together as a commune.
Why not?
Too many variables.
The Branch Davidian. They tried it. David Koresh. The Jonestown Massacre.
You get everyone thinking the
Any
same
cult
way.
ever.
Any cult.
But that's
You're gonna cultize your city and say we operate this way.
in that situation
Amish?
though. You've got one person in charge of the Amish. Are very successful in their
And they
in
keep
the way
it,
they live.
They keep it together. They know the way they do it.
But do they have one guy at the top saying, "I know what's best for everyone. Do what I say"?
Tyrannical. I don't think the Amish are tyrannical that way. As
Yeah,
far as
but
tyranny or oligarchy or
Jonestown.
Jonestown had one, and David Koresh was one in Waco, and they had one up on Ruby Ridge, and whoever that was.
Yeah. So maybe it's not a commune, but a cooperative or something. But I mean, that's kind of like a bunch of silos, still being silos, but coming together for parts of their community needs, and not all of
Yeah, the communistic idea. That's why it's communism. like the single payer healthcare system that the country is considering. That's saying everyone pays the government for health insurance. And it's the way Canada and England operate
Mm-hmm.
under one system. That's it. And you hear bad things about that system. The motivation is down for the doctors. There's no, you're on a waiting list for everything that you're doing. So being on that waiting list, it's not necessarily good for everybody. It's not good for everybody, not even the doctors. They stay busy, but they have no incentive to work harder or to gain more education because they're paid to do the job they do. That's the downside of communism, is you lose your passion for work. This type of family economy or communism, and that's the wrong word for it, but it is a community. A tier 2 community of a family working together. We're going to help the businesses operate the best way possible.
So would you say they're all completely dependent on each other then in a family like that? If someone doesn't do their work, doesn't do their job, doesn't pull their weight, then everybody else suffers. Everyone suffers from it.
How could you make it so that everyone suffers? Dependent. Because your job, the construction company that exists, it doesn't affect the financial planning business or the working as an accountant or being a music teacher. Whether that works doesn't affect everyone else. It doesn't damage anyone else if it works or not. How can you gauge it so that it would help? So I do want to find that answer, the right answer of how does the grandchild's work at the fast food store make a difference to the whole family succeeding at that, or the server at the restaurant? How does that job benefit the whole family, and how do we make it important? How is it important? What's its importance to the community? And I think dependent's the wrong word. You said they're dependent. It's not dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really doesn't matter. We're not relying on the income. We're not as a community relying on the income from that, but we're relying that income to support that silo. Silos exist in the community still, but since we're people and not metal objects, we can affect each other and benefit each other. And just like walking up and down the stairs and taking 2 more minutes to talk about something as opposed to just taking the elevator the quickest route to something, stealing time, we can talk about it and find a better mousetrap, build a better mousetrap. There's probably some idea from Malthus of that, arithmetic and geometric, knowing that you're not going to be slowed down no matter what small effect you take. Whatever small effect you're able to make is going to be geometric in me. Just having that realization in your mindset is going to change whether you decide to do that next little step today. Take the step. It means a lot more than you can ever see. So if the burger flipper at the restaurant knows that, will they make a different decision when they have a decision to make?
Yes.
If they have a long-term view, and that's what you're talking about, motivation. If you're only thinking about today, you're the little red hen and everyone else around the little red hen, if you're thinking like the little red hen, you're going to make different decisions. You can go ahead and plant and harvest and grind and bake.
You can envision the bread at the end.
Yeah.
And recognize that there is value to that, and you're willing to do the work to get to that point.
Right. And that's just one closed system to the bread loaf. But if you open that system and say, we're going to run a company now, the little red hen sees 5 grains of wheat. Let's plant all 5. And then next time, let's save 10 grains from this thing. And next year we'll double it. And if you see the long-term vision plan, we're going to have a farm of 1,000 grains of wheat and 10,000 and billion, and we can feed the whole city with bread in a year, 2 years. We can feed the whole city.
Yeah, even just knowing the goal will help you.
Yeah, knowing it's going to go geometric. Her bread, and the end of that story was 1 loaf of bread, and they enjoyed it. That was fun. But that's not the geometric side. That's saying it's arithmetic. You're going to do 1 act, and your 1 act gets 1 value at the end.
Right.
Every act we do is going to get 10,000 values at the end, even if what you're doing is just working at a burger joint or just teaching music to one person.
Yes. So you need to identify what the
Long-term goal is.
long-term goal is, and tell everyone. You can't just keep it secret.
Because that's a silo if you don't tell it. If you don't have a way to communicate, then you can't communicate.
Yeah.
You need a social environment that is willing to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
What are we afraid of saying in that social environment? So what would you not say? You talked about privacy. What would you not want to say?
All your money belongs to us. From now on, we're all working together, and everything that you have, you must give to, and this is the goal.
That's a possibility. Is it possible to pull all of our cash? Anytime you get a check, it just goes into the family account. The family then spends all the needs. That's the way communism works.
Give everyone,
or a single payer system.
Give your budget to the family, and the family will take care of your needs.
Yeah, a single payer system, and that's what that is. It says any income, anytime you get a paycheck, you don't put it in your own account. You don't have a personal account. You have a community account.
Even a portion of the paycheck. Even you brought up that we could do like tithing, an offering to the family. If somebody wanted to, if the ones that had the breathing room for it, they did, or everybody did 10% into the community for the benefit of the community. Rather than totally communist, it's an offering based.
It's a portion. Yeah, I was gonna that concept of tithing, because it's talked about in Dave Ramsey's system. In the first step is give your contribution. Giving is part of the whole system to start with, and of course they're religious based, so they talk about it as tithing. 10%. You can pay your 10% tithing to somebody. As that tithing goes in, what if you're not religious and you don't have anyone to pay tithing to? Where does that money go? Is that still a valid concept? Should they still promote that concept, even though you have no church to send it to? What do you do with the 10%? And a community can make that decision, right? So that was my thought, is let the community decide. Either the silo, if it's a family, the silo decides what I'm going to do with that 10%. If it's a valid principle and I want to participate, but I don't want to send it to a church, I want to send it to my brother, because my brother's on a construction company and he needs that money. So I'm going to do that with my 10%. I'm giving it away. It's a gift.
It's exercising generosity. You're learning how to be generous with small acts.
Exercising that muscle.
And then you get better at it, and you get more generous over time as that grows.
So the reason that you do that you want to do that, is because you do think that's a valid principle. So as a community, you can promote that principle. And if we did it as a whole family, if you had 10 families together, 10 silos working together saying, yeah, let's all promote this principle. Even the first brand newest employee that's flipping burgers is going to take 10% of that income and apply it to the giving concept. And that giving makes sense. That's a way to structure what you believe is a good financial principle and a good muscle to exercise, is the giving muscle. Because the 7th step of the Dave Ramsey system is to live like no one else, so you can live like no one else and give like no one else. So you can fully exercise that muscle, and you have 60% of your income that's now discretionary, that you have no obligations for it, and it can be used to do whatever needs done. It can buy a tractor or a truck. I mean, that money is available every month. You could buy a new vehicle if someone needed it, or you could do a full home renovation for somebody. And that giving muscle, if you've exercised it well enough and you know that it's going for good purposes and you can identify what those are, and you've got a community that you're benefiting and making sure everything is done. Is there anything wrong with that type of thinking?
I don't think so.
Why would you not want to participate? Why would someone be afraid of being a part of that?
Most companies do some sort of charitable giving, whether it's just for the tax purposes or if that's just who they are. There's Spencer Stevens Construction. They do events. They sponsor city events days. They do a 9/11 memorial service event, and it's fully funded by that construction company. It's a way for them to give back to their community through experiences rather than literal supporting individuals.
Can do that too. I mean, you could become a sponsor of the rodeo or parade or days. You have your name listed on there. Those are valid ways to give money.
Is that marketing or is that giving back to the community?
It feels good to give. I think once you do it, and that's like building the charity muscle or whatever you were talking about, is you do it a little bit and you realize, hey, actually, I liked that. Let me do it a little bit more. And then, like, you get addicted to the feeling.
Yeah. You notice that you don't miss that small amount over time.
Yeah.
And then, hey, I've got X amount of dollars. Somebody needs a roof. I won't miss this either. This wouldn't matter. But driving past that roof and knowing that it's solid, that's a good feeling.
About that.
Yeah. And if you had a community you're working with, if you had 10 families that had that, you say, oh, it's $10,000. It's only $1,000 each of us. Can we do it? It's a lot easier to do if you're not putting the full cost into it. You're putting a portion of it into that gift. But that's still giving. That's the gift muscle.
That's still choosing that over putting money into a family cabin. Are we assuming that we've already got a family cabin at this point, and then we're giving?
Yeah.
Before you get a family cabin,
it's just whatever you have. It's taking the 10%. Right now, if you started out with the lowest level of that, say there's 10%, there's the tithing amount. And let's just say, there's some of us that are going to put it to a church. We have a specific place for that 10%. But if we total that 10% up for everybody in the community, is there a chance that some of that doesn't have a place to go yet? It's possible that there's not a church receiving that tithing, a God that they're paying it to. It's possible. And that has a number. And let's say that number is $2,000 a year. So $100 a month. Let's say there's $100 a month. Could the community figure out what to do with that $100 a month that would be beneficial as a gift, as opposed to just
within the family?
Yeah.
To fill a legitimate need within the family.
Is it useful to benefit the family by those charitable gifts?
Yes.
Is it valid, just as valid? Jacob 2:18, I think is what it is. Book of Mormon. It says that if you seek for riches, seek for the kingdom of God before you seek for riches. But if you seek for riches, you'll do it to clothe the naked and liberate the captive and administer relief to the sick and the afflicted. What I always thought that, and I still think, that's relating to your family first. The first people you clothe are your kids, and the first people you feed are your kids and your family, and that's the first thing you do. If there's someone that's living, and this is the problem of the mooching debt system. The mooching debt system comes in if you don't have enough money and you're living outside your means. If your living expenses are beyond what means you're able to provide by flipping burgers, and the jobs that you can get, your expenses are higher. The first place that's valid for that charitable money to go to is to the family to get that budget in line. So that's the first goal. It's the first step of the Dave Ramsey system. And if we, as a community, agree that that's the first step, we can identify where everyone is. Some people are living well within their means and have excess discretionary income. Some people are still well underneath that. And so that's the first goal. If you take that goal as a community, can you better solve it? Even if you use the part of it being that charitable money. And you say, here's this family that's trying to operate, but they're well under their means. Their means are way beyond. So let's solve a portion of that. Every month, they get the $200 just to their budget.
Right.
And instead of mooching it, they know that they're getting it from the family. It's a family decision. It's a community decision. That's where we want to go. That's the next issue to solve right now, is getting that budget in line.
You have to identify how to get that family that's receiving the help, how to get them to where they don't need to receive the help anymore.
Self-reliance.
Bring up their income so that their needs are met by what they're doing, and then they can have excess to help someone else.
And that's what we talk about, the little red hen story, making sure that their vision is long enough that the next decision they make is going to be the right one and not the wrong one. Not to buy the next lottery ticket with that $200. That's really not your role. We've got a guy buying lottery tickets. You don't need to do that.
Right. We just got a windfall. We've got money, and now let's have a party instead of putting it towards education or
buying the boots that you need. But it's keeping everyone's mindset on the long term. rather than having these grasshoppers jump around and just spending the money and throwing it away.
Yeah.
We're taking care of everyone's finances in a conversation, in a community. So they don't necessarily tell you exactly what to spend your money on, but if we believe that the principle of tithing, a 10% gift muscle up front, is important, and that paying debts off is or paying for your own house, a structure to live under is next important, and then paying the debts and making sure that you get out of debt is the third most important. If those are in order and the community understands that, then we're going to work in a concert to make sure those things happen for everybody. And if someone new joins the family that's way out of line, the rest of the family, the rest of that group can more quickly and easily solve that. And bring
What if
them
you
in
have
line.
someone already in the family that is destructive to the plan?
Tries to break it.
Yeah, like they
Let's say they drink alcohol.
let's say they're an alcoholic.
It costs way too much, and they spend too much money on it, and so a third of their budget's going, whatever the amount is. The $200 goes right to the alcohol, to the bar.
Yeah. Or maybe like what if they legitimately feel like their budget requires this thing that they're paying to, like
let's
like
say
Netflix.
it's not a sin type thing. Say it's a health food that I need to buy gluten-free everything that costs 5 times as much as the standard wheat.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go on this health kick that means my food budget increases 3 times.
Right. And so, like, what if you've got
How do you
that
support
in
that?
the family? That person's food budget is 5 times more than everybody else's. And also they need another $200 to pay their electric bill.
Yeah, because the electric cost is still the same with everybody. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's that fear of opening up your budget to somebody. They'll say, what are you buying this gluten-free stuff? Or why do you take those 20 supplements? They're $5 a piece or $50 a piece.
Yeah.
You're taking 20 of them.
Why
Yeah.
are you going to Starbucks every day?
Yeah.
What's this rock star business? You buy $5 worth every day and you drink them.
And you're not even drinking that.
You finished it already. It's gone.
Now you're putting stuff back in. You can drink that tomorrow?
Making a tea, that's fine.
Make a tea. Okay. So you got those individual tendencies or challenges. They're
Habits.
not really habits. They're not necessarily
Preferences.
wrong. And maybe the supplements, the 20 supplements are necessary at $50 a piece. What is that? $100? No, I don't. I can't
20
even do
times
that now.
50, 1,000. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's more money than anyone else is spending if no one else is using supplements. Why do you think the supplements are that important? But they are that important. And that person has to be able to make that decision. You have to allow that autonomy that
Trust.
rock stars and drinking and, lottery playing is an important part of my life. That's how I relax. Or watching football.
You trust that
You
their
know.
budget is right for them,
Yeah.
even if they do drink alcohol.
And so how do you help them? How should a community operate with that, saying it's your budget, you're still a silo, but we want to, how do I get comfortable sharing with you my full budget? Now, I have no problem with that. I don't care what anyone sees or knows, but
It's going to be a very slow process and you have to ease them into it
Or-
individually. You can't propose this as a family meeting. I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Because
okay, why?
the hesitant ones that don't want to be mooched from are going to be worried about their own perspective of the others as being moochers. There's, in any community, you're always going to assume that there are moochers in there, and you're going to be like, no, they're going to suck us all dry. It's not going to be equitable for me because I'm the one giving all the time. So no.
Because I worked hard enough to get my budget in line. I know that I'm the only stable person in this family.
But
Everyone else.
if the few people that are on board with it and want to plant the seed of everybody helping everybody else, if we express concern, I looked this up. I tried to find the right one. I think this is it. We read this last night, and it might not even have anything to do with anything. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
But Philippians 4, it starts at verse 10. I rejoiced greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through him who gives me strength, yet it is good of you to share in my troubles. If we share in the troubles of those who are not in need, we ask them, how you doing? Hey, we've been doing this thing. The people who are on board with this have been tithing into helping the family. Is there a need that needs to be filled in your house? And they can show, we lead by example by doing that. You're doing it to everybody, but you're also the ones who don't need. You're still offering that hand, and they can see that it's well managed, it's available if something arises. It's an emergency fund for those in need, not just a Starbucks fund. It's not going out to have fun fund. It's filling an immediate need.
And it has to have a structure. It has to have a definite structure of what you're filling first. So if the first need is,
and that plants the vision in those who are doubting it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. You got the sharing thing out of that. The thing I've always gotten out of that group of scriptures was therewith to be content.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not looking for something else. It's whatever. If I'm in want or if I'm in need, I'm content with my current life.
Well, I looked at it as if the person who is content is still being cared for, whether they need it or not.
Yeah.
There's the offer. It's open to them.
You have to be able to receive. It's the receiving. So not saying, we're fine. Don't worry about our budget. We're working it out. I'm going to be a silo and I'm going to solve all my problems because it's my problems. But if you share as a community, it's not just my problems, it's everyone's problems. Everyone can help and put their idea. But I would think it has to have a definite steps to it, like the baby steps. The first step is the giving muscle. If you start out with something that simple, let's just start out with the giving muscle. You've got an income, you've got money that comes in this month. Can you identify 10% of that and identify what you're going to give it to? And if it can help someone else in the family, let's do that with it. If it just goes out, that's fine too. And if you want to just spend it at Starbucks because you feel like that's the charity, that's the God you want to promote, identify that.
So we're an hour and 25 minutes in, but
we've got to be done.
We've got to be done. But I do want to say, let's further talk about judgment and respect and trust. Not today, but another time we need to, that's part of the further baby steps or whatever, is getting everyone good with each other. Does that make sense? I mean, the problem is I hold a lot of judgments for people in my family. I'm looking at you, everyone. I'm looking at everyone thinking, I wouldn't have made that choice. Why did you make? Now I don't want to give you anything because you made a choice that I don't agree with. And that needs to be healed. That needs to be changed.
It needs to be not changed. You can't change someone. It needs to be dealt with. It needs to be acknowledged.
Acknowledge that
I have
judgment, that I'm judging someone. I can change whether I'm judging someone or not. I can change my mind about whether someone's choices are valid or not.
You can choose to be content with it.
Yeah, I can be content.
So
but I mean, that's something that I need to practice.
Allowability of forgiveness that needs to happen.
Yeah, but from the start, not having nothing to forgive, be like, yeah, you're fine from the start. I never want to have from the beginning any negative thoughts about what other people are doing with their money or their life or how they live, the food they eat. I want to be okay with the person that's spending $1,000 a month on nutritional supplements without judgment.
And yeah, that has to be allowed. Yeah. So you've got to get to that level that's allowed, whatever you spend the money on.
Because you can't have this family working together on a long-term goal.
The problem, if you're trying to fix the goal, you've got two ways to solve a budget deficit. You can increase the income or you can cut expenses. you can stop spending $1,000 a month on supplements. But you've got to allow that family, that silo, the opportunity to do one or the other. And so as a community, I mean, you have a business that needs extra employees, extra people to help do this or that. You say, you can come and join this group for a while, even though all you can do is sweep. We need sweepers. You can do that every afternoon for 2 hours or whatever. You find the thing that they can do to benefit someone else, benefit a community, and earn an income. Or because you can't legislate morality. You can't legislate what people do. Just like paying tithing. You can't say tithing to this church. This is the only place tithing can be paid. This God. If tithing is a muscle that we agree with, the community agrees with, that has to be something that's made universal, and it can go wherever you want it to go. And whether it goes to the family or not. Judgment, respect, and trust.
Yeah. Aristotle would put that in, he talked about friendship categories in book 8. I just was listening to a podcast about this. There's friendship of pleasure, friendship of utility, and then there's the top most bestest friendship of excellence. Friendship of arete is the Greek word, but
Arete.
Excellence. In that friendship of excellence, you are friends with someone with free of judgment. They don't judge you, you don't judge them, and you both know you're working to be better people. And we want a family of excellence. We don't want a family of pleasure and a family of utility.
Right. And that's the red hen. The red hen is after excellence, long-term. Long-term excellence and understanding.
Thing. Yeah.
Allowing the pig to be a pig, but, come out and root up the weeds around this garden.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool.
Thought of this super late, but the criticism and judgment that you have.
Mm-hmm.
There's Marshall Rosenberg said this. I don't know who it is. But basically every judgment, criticism, judgment, diagnosis, and expression of anger is the tragic expression of an unmet need. You think your needs aren't being met? Your expectations of the family is that a need that your family succeeds rather than?
Well, let's say the
is that why you're judging
purchase,
them?
say there's $1,000 a month going out in supplements. It would only bother you if you say there's something else I could do with that $1,000.
Yeah.
So that's the unmet need.
Would be the need that would need to be filled.
I could use that $1,000 for something much more valuable.
In my own opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion is that if I had that, I would be spending it
Yeah.
on.
And since I have a avenue in to talk to that person, let's discuss it and let's make them change and benefit the family in this way, the community.
Yeah.
If we just fix this street, would be much better than those supplements or Starbucks. That institution doesn't need your money.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen. We'd love to hear your feedback and thoughts. Please continue the conversation with us at doyouhaveaminuteconversations@gmail.com. Your participation means the world to us, and we look forward to having more exciting conversations with you in the future. Take care now.